Hi, my name is Steve Siebold, and I want to welcome you to the Success Coaching Training. And I'm excited to be here because I've actually been in the coaching business for over 30 years. I started out coaching amateur athletes and professional athletes, Olympic athletes, then went on to coach Fortune 500 sales teams and senior executives in Fortune 500 companies. And I will say, that over all of these years in coaching these different teams and different people, some of the results we've had have been, spectacular. But what I learned is there's a difference, a major difference between coaching an athlete and coaching someone in success so they can be more successful to get what they want. And the primary difference is when you're coaching an athlete or you're coaching an athletic team, you're coaching them around a lot of different skills training for the most part, unless you're coaching a professional team like an NBA team or an NFL team or something like that. You're coaching a lot around skills. When it comes to success coaching, it's a little bit different in this one specific way. Success coaching is more about asking questions than it is giving answers. What you're trying to do as a success coach is not necessarily tell the client how to become successful. It's more about a process known as facilitated introspection. In other words, you as the coach are facilitating the introspective process of trying to get the client to look inside him or herself for the answers that they're actually seeking. Because most of the answers are inside people. We don't really have them from the outside. We're not talking about coaching a kid's baseball team where you're saying, hey, grip the bat up a little bit higher and then keep your eye on the ball when before you swing. It's not like that. These are adults we're training just to help them, coaching, just trying to help them become more successful to get what they want. Basically, if you will, to expedite the success process. It's not that they couldn't succeed without us, as much as it is that we can make the process go much, much faster. And so I just wanted to start out by saying that it really is more about, just in my experience, it's more about questioning, asking the right questions at the right time, and getting people to really think. Because when you do that, you expand their awareness. It's almost like they know the answers, and what we're trying to do is sort of prod them and poke them psychologically to pull and emotionally to pull those answers out. And it's a process. It's a process that takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. But the good news is the net effect can be extraordinary success. Just in the teams, the sales teams I've been able to coach over the years, we increased sales by $1.3 billion with teams collectively over, the course of 20 years. And that's just a result of asking the right questions and then sometimes interjecting some wisdom, some experience if you feel like you have it in that specific area. And a lot of times it's simply asking more questions. So questions are the centerpiece of success coaching. No question about it. Any million-dollar coach will tell you that. They really are. It's really about asking the right questions. And so I want to start at the beginning in this first training video by how do you do this from the beginning? I mean, how do you really set this all up? And I'm going to throughout this training, I'm going to give you a lot of general ideas that you can take and basically insert any type of coaching strategy or program or process that you particularly like. I could give you I coach mental toughness. That's what I've done for 30 plus years. And I have a certain process that mental toughness coaching follows. My process that I've worked with, with different teams and people over the years. But you may have a different process. And I don't want to try to push you down the road of coaching mental toughness. A lot of people don't like to coach mental toughness. It's very in your face. It's you're irritating people constantly, purposely to try to get them emotional, to get them to reveal things. It's a whole process. It's a different kind of coaching, not better or worse than any other kind of success coaching, but certainly different. And so that's what I did. But you may be more of a motivational coach. You might be more of an inspirational coach. Everyone's a little bit different. So instead of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole and say, here's the coaching method you should use, mental toughness or positive psychology coaching, it's another one, or motivational coaching or any other process like that, you choose your process. What I'm going to give you over these training videos, and these will be the questions on the exam as well, will be general coaching ideas that have been handed down from dozens of 7-figure-a-year coaches, just generalizations that will really help you. Then you can fit your own coaching program into those, these general ideas, if that makes sense. And I think it will make sense as we go along. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that most 7-figure coaches that I've worked with, and I've done the same exact thing, recommend is, we call it the first order of business when you're working with someone. First order of business really with new prospective clients is to a few things. Find out exactly what he or she wants. That's number one. What are you coaching them to do? Success is a very broad term. So what do they exactly do? Do they want? What does this person want? And that's right off the bat. It's got to be specific. If the person doesn't know what they want, it's going to be real hard to coach them. Let me say it this way. It's going to be hard to successfully coach them, because how do you know when you've succeeded? You don't, because they don't know what they want. A lot of people don't know what they want. I've had a lot of people come to me over the years. I've turned down far more people, and I think every 7-figure coach, at least that I know, would say this, that we turn down far more people than we take. And the reason is not because of some elite status or anything of that nature. It's really about, if the person is unclear of what they want, your odds of helping them succeed are very, very low. And as coaches, we get all our business based on referrals. It's all based on success. So you want to make sure you stack the deck when it comes to succeeding as a coach. And that means, first of all, making sure that he or she knows exactly what he or she wants, so you can decide if you think they can get it or not. Okay, number two, you have to assess if you think you're capable of coaching this particular client to success. Are you experienced enough to coach this particular client to success? You've got to make that decision for yourself. If you don't think you're capable of doing it, don't take the client. Don't take the client. You have got, one of the things that 7-figure coaches do is they stack the deck when it comes to success. Again, we know we're going to succeed almost for sure because we go through this vetting process, if you will, and it makes a big difference. So ask yourself, are you capable of coaching this person and helping them get what they want? And if you're not, don't take the client, because you're going to fail. Okay, if you are, then move forward. And the last one really is, assess the odds of the client doing what it takes to succeed. The first one's about you. Are you capable of coaching them? Can you do this? And the second one's about them. Do you think they'll do the work? Do you think that the odds are strong, better than 50-50 certainly, that the client is going to do what it takes to succeed? And if the answer is no, don't take the client. Believe me, it may sound counterintuitive to you, especially if you're a new coach looking for business. I get it. You want to take whoever you can, but don't do it. That's the biggest rookie mistake you can make, is taking clients on that you cannot help, or you cannot help get with exactly what they want, because you're going to fail, which means you don't get testimonials, which means you don't get referrals, which means you don't succeed. Okay, let's go to the next one. I would strongly recommend, okay, and some coaches don't believe this. They don't believe in this, but I would strongly recommend that you have both yourself and your client sign a non-disclosure agreement. Now, some coaches think this is going too far. They say, oh, Steve, come on. It's too far. Non-disclosure agreements, an NDA, we really need to do this. It's wise. I would say it's wise to have your client sign it and you sign it, which means once you have an NDA in place, it's not because you're going to take them to court or they're going to take you to court. Okay, that's not the idea. The idea is to make the client understand that you're so serious about the personal information that's going to be shared during your sessions, your coaching sessions with them, with him or her, that you're going to make sure, even under an NDA, that these things are not to be shared with anyone, not even your spouse when you're a coach. These are things that get locked away, because the more personal you can get with the client, both your side of the story, okay, to connect with them, telling them your side, as well as them revealing emotional things to you or personal things to you that they may not have even told their spouse. That happens all the time at this level of coaching, all the time. People say, I can't believe I'm telling you this. Well, when you sign an NDA and they sign one, I don't think anyone's afraid there's going to be a lawsuit. I think what it is it just says, we are dead serious about this. This is not some $50 an hour job, okay? We're talking about helping people make their dreams come true at this level. At the highest level, that's what it is. You may not start out there, but that's where it goes if you stick with it as a coach. Okay, when we went into a company, our initial goal was typically to raise sales in a region in a $40 to $60 billion company, about $100 million in a $100 million region. Our goal was to help them increase sales by about $100 million. That's usually what they wanted. We're talking about large amounts of money, large amounts of success, and dreams, people's dreams. Okay, sign an NDA. It's easy to do. It's easy to write up, not a big deal, and you'll be glad you did. And the client will say, wow, this is a serious coach. Like no other coach will do this. Very few coaches will have NDAs, okay? And sign it, you sign it as well as they sign it. Very wise to do so, okay? Now, in terms of opening strategies with the client, one of the best opening strategies you can employ as a success coach is to get the client to complete a comprehensive pre-coaching survey. And that's really simple. It's not a big deal. It's basically just getting as much information up front before you start coaching the client on as many different details about this person as you possibly can. Not hard to do, okay? But you want to make sure you make it comprehensive. You want to know all about all areas of their life, all right? Because it's going to make a huge difference. Now you have a running start for your first coaching session. You do your homework, you review their pre-coaching survey. You know lots about them already. Now you can start asking questions based on the answers to the survey, as opposed to asking all of these basic questions that you could have had them fill out before they spent, $500 an hour paying you or whatever you're charging for these basic answers. Let them fill it out in a survey. Again, what it tells it helps you obviously fast forward the process. You're probably going to save yourself a month, probably 4 weeks of coaching. I would say, say half hour to an hour a week for 4 weeks. It's probably how much time you'll save yourself with the comprehensive survey. All right. So because you're going to know all these things, it also is another signal, like the NDA, to the client that says, this is a serious coach. This is no joke. This is a world-class coach who's covering, or seems to be covering, every base that he or she can cover. It's very impressive because hardly anyone in this field does this. The top people do, but most of the other people I know don't. So do that pre-coaching survey for sure. Okay. Let's talk about one of the most important success coaching tools that you should have at your disposal, and that's always, every coaching session, you should have a comprehensive list of questions. Okay? Now they can be general questions, they can be specific questions, but before you sign on, if it's over, an online like Zoom or somewhere online, or if it's in person, whatever, you should have these questions all teed up. I would have them in every single session. Add questions, subtract questions. You want to have a bunch of questions because, again, the questions drive this introspective process that you're trying to get the client to go through. Okay, so always have lots and lots of questions that you can use during each of your coaching sessions. Okay, now during every coaching session, there's one overall goal, and that's to continue to add to the construction of the client's psychological blueprint. A psychological blueprint is really simple. It's simply made up of the thoughts, the desires, the passions, everything emotional that's connected to success and what the client values in life. You want to know what these people are willing to fight for, or let's say this person is willing to fight for. You want to know what they're willing to die for. Maybe it's family, usually is something like that, their kids, their friends, their family. Who are these people? Why are they so connected to them? What's the emotion behind it? How does it make them feel? You're looking for power sources, psychological power sources. You're also looking for pain points. You're looking for pain points in their emotional blueprint, this psychological emotional blueprint, where once you know where these buttons are, all you have to do is push. And when you push the right button in someone's psychological emotional blueprint, they respond. They react. They come to life. But it's different for every single person, just like a blueprint is on a building. And every building is different. And so the blueprint is different, and every human being is different. We do have things obviously that we have in common, but when it comes to a psychological emotional blueprint, we all have different backgrounds. We have different upbringings, experiences, belief systems, philosophies, ideologies, all these different things that make us truly unique. And so every session should be asking questions where you add to your psychological blueprint. And you start to see this person's emotional motive, all these emotional motivators and these pain points and all these different things in this blueprint. And that means your questions become that much more targeted, specific, and most of all, effective. That's what you're looking for. That's what makes up a great coach, because the better your questions are, the better the answers are, the better quality the answers are, the closer you are getting to finding out what makes this person tick. And once you know what makes them tick, you're holding on to a lot of power as a coach, and you can move them towards success at a speed in which they probably could not achieve on their own. Okay, so let's talk about another coaching technique. One of the most powerful coaching techniques you should employ to understand how your client thinks and what they value is known as facilitated introspection. And I mentioned this earlier, but this is one of the most powerful things, and it's sort of an overall strategy that we use as coaches. It's if you put a gun to my head and said, see what's the most powerful strategy in coaching? Second to none, facilitated introspection. In other words, facilitating, as I mentioned earlier, as a coach, facilitating the introspective process. I'm asking you targeted, specific, emotional questions that you're going to give me answers to that probably no one has ever asked you in your life. They've never asked you any of these questions. I used to get all the time when I did this full time for a living in an office all day long. People would say, the most common thing people would say when I hit the right questions in the facilitated introspective process, people would say, no one has ever asked me that question in my entire life. I'm 40 years old, I'm 50 years old, I'm 60 years old, I'm 70 years old. No one has ever asked me that question my entire life. And it's a really good question. I hear that every day. Literally every day. 6, 7 clients a day. People would say, my spouse has never asked me that question. And it's that powerful. Because as you dig down in this blueprint, you get more specific, and you get more information, and you get more targeted. And they really start to believe you're a genius as a coach. But the truth is, you're not a genius. You just have more information than anyone that's ever coached them, because you're asking the right questions that lead to the right answers that give you the information you need to ask better questions. It's very, Very powerful. Facilitated introspection. Okay. All right. 2 key traits that every coach needs to have are empathy and compassion. Empathy and compassion. You got to put yourself in the client's shoes. You got to see where they're coming from. It really helps. If they feel like you're positioning yourself above them because you're a coach, they're not going to open up most likely. They're going to hold back. These are very personal things to people. So empathy is key to the process. And compassion, of course, is too, because people are going to tell you some sad stories. Stories of tragedies. Stories of things that have happened to them that you won't believe if you ask the right questions, because trauma is part of the coaching process. It's not that we're looking for them to expose trauma to us, but people typically do because they've heard it. I never knew some of the things that I just never had heard of, some of the things that have happened to people, that had happened to people, until I started coaching and going through facilitated introspection with people. I just couldn't believe that so many people have gone through so many personal things, just traumatic things, and they're going to reveal these things to you. And empathy and compassion are key. You have to put yourself in their shoes. When I used to interview people and do facilitated introspection on stages, I've done this in front of thousands and thousands of people all over the world. I'd bring people cold on stage, put a chair across from my chair, no preparation, nothing. I would explain. I was teaching facilitated introspection to people, and I would start going down the process with them. And one of the things I would try to do is feel what they were feeling, take on those feelings. And I do it by listening to their voice and looking at their face. And then I try to feel what they were feeling. And a lot of times tears would be coming down their face and tears would be coming down mine. And sometimes when we had cameras in the auditorium and people would see it on the big IMAG screens, they would see my face. Sometimes at the book signing afterwards, people would say, "Gee, I saw you kind of broke down during the facilitated introspection process. Does that happen to you normally?" And the short answer was, I want to take on the emotion of the person I'm asking these questions to, that I'm asking to be introspective. It's not a matter of support. It's a matter of I want to feel what they're feeling. Now, when I do, my empathy goes up, my compassion goes up, and what happens? They open up even more because they feel safe. They're emotionally safe. And this is in front of 10,000 people in some cases. So it's a very powerful thing, but you have to be with them. And if that takes being emotional with them, be emotional with them. I've done lots of those like that, and that's how I felt it. What a lot of people will do as coaches, they'll say, "Well, I don't want to get upset emotionally if they're upset emotionally because then I lose control." Oh no! What you do is you create separation emotionally. Now you're separate. Their emotion is here, your emotion is here, and it's hard to be compassionate and empathetic when you have this asymmetric situation. Right? They're highly emotional and you're not. I want to feel it. And if that means tears are coming down my face, tears are coming down my face. That's fine. I want them to see that I'm with them as a coach. This is not just, again, you're not coaching your kid's little league team and saying choke up on the bat or, extend your arm when you pitch. You're not doing that. This is success coaching. This is something different. And these are adults, right? These are smart people. We don't typically know more than them about anything. We're trying to work them through a coaching process to expedite their success, to make it go faster. That's really it. But it can be very powerful. Sometimes it's 10 years faster. It can be life-changing faster. And that's why this industry exists and this process exists, okay? So let's go to the next one. Great coaches always maintain confidentiality and trustworthiness. And they listen actively. They're part of the listening process. And they listen without judgment. They listen without judgment. But they're listening, and active listening, at the most, basic level is repeating things back to them. So let me understand this. What you're saying is that type of thing where they know you are dialed in. You're not just hearing this. You're actually involved in this. You're feeling what they're feeling. That's why if it sounds like, if you've never been a success coach and you're thinking to yourself, this could be exhausting, like just physically exhausting because you have to focus so hard. Yes, that's why some of the best coaches are charging thousands of dollars per hour because they're really good at this. And it is exhausting. It's not the easiest thing to do because you take on their emotion, and that can be draining. It can also be very fulfilling when they succeed. So it's got an upside and a downside. But listen actively. Never, ever, never judge the client. Because if you do, they will shut down. You won't get any more information. Your blueprint is done. They won't give you any more. You can't judge them. I don't care what they've done. I don't care what they say. You can't judge them. You're fulfilling a role, and the role is to be with them, not against them, not judging them, not above them, not below them, but on the side of them, with them. It's a partnership in a sense. You're not the parent and they're the child. That's not success coaching. That's something else. That's not success coaching. You're equal. You're with them. And now you're locking into their emotions. Okay? And so, no judgment at all. Otherwise, you'll kill the golden goose, which is when they start telling you how they feel as opposed to how they think. When they start talking in terms of feelings all the time, you've got them. When they keep telling you what they think, that's more logic-based. Feelings are emotion-based. That's what you're looking for. But if you judge them, they won't give it to you. So listen actively without judgment. Okay. Another thing successful coaches do is they continue to work on their own personal development. This is something we all need more, more time to improve ourselves, more reading. And you can see all the books behind me. People always ask, I have these shelves all over my house, and people say, oh, you read all those books? It's like, yeah, more than once, because there's no end to personal development. It's one of the beautiful things about what we do in personal development is there's always the next level of awareness and the next level of improvement and all those good things. It's just all good. But make sure you're working on yourself, because it's not just a matter of improving yourself. It's also a matter of you're in the process, and so is your client, and you know how it feels to be on the other side. Now, if you want to get a success coach, that's not the worst thing you could do, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to be coached. But I will tell you, when you spend half the time, maybe not half the time, but when you're being coached and you're coaching, you're going to be a better coach because you're on both sides of the fence, and you know how it feels to be on both sides of the fence, and it makes a difference. So, but one of the reasons you want to continue your personal development journey is so you can relate to your clients. You can relate. You've been on the other side of the fence. You know what it's like to be asked all these personal questions and have your traumas come up and your feelings and your ideologies and your philosophies and your hurts and the pain points. Times you were really hurt in your life. It's not fun all the time, but you can relate because you've been on the other side of the desk, so to speak. So you want to be able to relate to your clients, and that means staying in the personal development process, both as a coach, but also as a client. It doesn't have to be formally as a client, but it wouldn't be the worst thing you could do either. You want to be able to relate to your clients. Okay. Coaches ask thought-provoking, emotional, personal questions to facilitate deep reflection. That's what you're going for. That's the Holy Grail. You're getting people to look inside themselves at a depth at which they wouldn't ordinarily seek. If you're not asked some of these questions, some of these deep questions, what would you be willing to die for? Is there a philosophy you would be willing to die for? How many times you've ever been asked that question in your entire life? Well, I'm 60 years old. I've never had anyone ask me that question. Ever. I mean, outside of like coaching, talking about coaching like this, but no one's ever literally looked me in the face and asked me that question, ever. I've asked audiences that question all over the world, but no one's ever asked me. What would you be? Is there an ideology? Is there philosophy? Is there a person? Are there people? Is there, is it your country? Is it your dog? I mean, whatever it is. These are questions that make people really reflect, okay? So is there an idea? What is your core belief in the value of life? And you're thinking, or the client's thinking, I don't know. No one's ever asked me that before. Let me think about it. These are deep reflective questions. You're trying to ask questions that get people to go deeper. Not surface questions. You want deep reflection because that's where the gold is. All right? Okay. Successful coaches also establish clear expectations for themselves and for the client so they can lessen the chance of miscommunication and disappointment. Miscommunication and disappointment. Okay. You want to look at expectations. In other words, what can you expect of yourself as a coach? And what can you not expect? Here's what you don't expect. Here's what I don't expect when I'm coaching. I don't expect a miracle. I don't expect an overnight result. I don't expect to be surprised at the speed, slow or fast, in which this client progresses. Okay? These are just some of the things. But you want to make sure your expectations are in check, both as a coach, but also the client. And you find out by asking the client, what are your expectations? Because if they tell you, and again, it's realistic, like we started out this whole process with, then the odds are pretty strong they're going to be successful. But you want to make sure you eliminate as much as possible any miscommunication or disappointment based on expectation. Okay. Great coaches celebrate their clients' successes, no matter how small. Really important. Get the little wins. They don't have to take over the world, even if that's the goal. They just have to get little wins because little wins become big wins, right? It's like, if you play baseball or you know anything about baseball, it's the home run hitters are the flashy ones. Those are the ones that go on baseball cards. But people that the batters that win the games, the guys that hit the singles and the doubles, just the non-sexy hits to get on base over and over and over. Pete Rose was one of those guys back in the day when I was growing up. He was not a home run king, but he got on base. He was the hit king. He would just get hits over and over. The guy was on base all the time. And that's what you're looking for. Small wins. Small wins add up to bigger wins. And so make sure you celebrate these small wins because everyone loves a celebration. Everyone needs to be recognized. I don't care how sophisticated they are. I don't care. You're thinking, oh, well, this guy's a senior executive of a Fortune 500 company. I've coached those people for years. Many years, some of the biggest companies in the world. They love recognition. We all do, even if it's small. So recognize, celebrate those successes, no matter how small they may be. Okay, one of the questions that comes up is, other coaches will ask, they'll say, should coaches seek feedback from clients? Get the highest level, coaches at the highest level. Should they seek feedback? I mean, these are top coaches. Do they need feedback from the client? Yes. Absolutely. Ask how you're doing. Mayor Koch, Ed Koch, who's the former mayor of New York, if you're old enough to remember, his famous thing was he'd say, how am I doing? He'd ask people, how am I doing? How am I doing in New York? He wanted feedback from people. He wanted to know what they thought. There's nothing wrong with this. Now, the only downside is if you have a big ego, okay, and you say, well, I don't need them to tell me. I know I'm a great coach. It's like, well, that may be true, but the more feedback you get, the more you can springboard off that feedback. Now, some of it's not going to be good. Some of it's going to be lousy feedback, and you'll know it when you hear it. But you might as well get the feedback anyway because it may give you an insight into the blueprint, the psychological blueprint of your client as well. It can also just help you improve your coaching. Ask for feedback from the client, okay? The best coaches are always studying different coaching techniques and methodologies. Why? Because you don't know the one that could make the difference. There's lots of different ways to coach. There's the tough ass coaches, the mental toughness coaches like me, the turnaround people that go in and it's kind of all guns are blazing. It's just a type of coaching where it's tough love. And then other people are motivational coaches. They're more motivational. They're inspirational. They're saying you can do it. Attaboy. There's all different methodologies and strategies, and I've used a lot of them over the years. Different techniques, different methodologies, and really, it's more about having a toolbox full of these techniques and methodologies is valuable, not because of one is better than the other, but it's valuable because every person you coach is different. And one technique and methodology will work on one person and it won't work on another person. And something else will. I've coached people in mental toughness. I thought there's no way they'll be able to handle this, and they just couldn't. So I took a different technique. I used a different technique, a different strategy, because I knew it wouldn't work. I just not with that person for whatever reason. You want to have a toolbox. So you should always be studying. The best coaches are always studying new techniques, new methodologies of coaching. So they have these in their toolbox at their disposal, and they can use them as they see fit. Okay. The most successful goal-setting system is not based on results. It's based on execution. Now, a lot of people don't know this, at least that I've had in my seminars over the years. They say, well, it's all about results. Well, yeah, at the end of the day, it's about results. But the fastest way to get the results is to coach people and reward people to execute, to do what they say they're going to do. Because once people are acting in full integrity like that, the results follow. Execution, execution, execution. That's the goal-setting system of the Olympics. It's the goal-setting system of professional athletes for the most part. You get people to execute on what they say they're going to do, and then sometimes you get the result, and sometimes you don't. But you focus on the execution. And one of the reasons is because it puts the client in 100% control of their own behavior, of their own success, effectively. It puts them in control. They're not at the mercy of an opponent or an economic situation or an environment or other people or anything else. It puts them in 100% control. Okay, it's important for coaches to encourage clients to step out of their comfort zones and provide constructive feedback. You want the client, to give you feedback. All right? And I know they're not, a lot of times people are not comfortable. That's why we say, to help them get out of their comfort zone. I want to know what they think. I want to know their constructive feedback on what we're doing, where we're going, how fast we're going there, how they feel about it. Fill in the blank, all of it. You want to get them to provide constructive feedback. Okay, guide your clients to identify and overcome their limiting beliefs. Beliefs, especially limiting beliefs, can be the destroyer of success. And it's amazing how much you learn about people's belief systems when you actually ask them. Like, you just can't, some of the things people believe are crazy. I mean, to me, they're crazy. And maybe they think mine are crazy. But some of the things people believe to be true about themselves, about the world, about their business, about their friends, about their spouse, about their fill in the blank. They've developed over a period of time, like we all have, and it can be very destructive for their success. So you want them to identify what these beliefs are, but then overcome them and break them down. And as a coach, you don't tell them to break them down. You ask them questions about, are you positive that this belief is serving you? Is it helping you or hurting you? Is this belief moving you closer to your goals and dreams or keeping you further away? You're asking questions. And they start to identify the beliefs, and then they hopefully can overcome them, or at least reduce those beliefs, the impact of those beliefs on their behaviors. Okay. And the last one I want to talk about here for this particular training is it's critical that you establish a strong accountability system with your clients to ensure their success. But it's not only their success, it's your success, okay? It's your success as well. Because if the client doesn't succeed, you don't succeed. You're rowing in the same boat. Make no mistake. Because if they don't succeed, they don't refer you. And if they don't refer you, you're not going to have a business. So you need to make sure that they stick to accountability. You have an accountability program. And if they're not doing the work that you're asking them and they agree to do week to week, you got to drop the client because they will fail, which means you will fail. It's just going to take a little bit longer. That's all for the failure to happen. But if they can't be accountable, drop them. I did this with companies for years where they would say, well, these are huge corporations, right? 50, 60, $70 billion corporations. And they would say, well, we're going to make the mental toughness program, not going to make it mandatory. It'd be sort of a voluntary thing. People can come and go as they like. And I said, if you do that, it will fail. And some of those contracts, I'm not ashamed of it, but I'm not happy about it that I took some of those contracts. And of course, they ultimately failed. And I took them because I thought, well, maybe the voluntary piece we can get, I'll try to motivate them to do the work and maybe we can make it work. I wanted those contracts. I didn't want to lose the business, frankly. And that was wrong. I was wrong about that. I should have, because you're going to lose it anyway. You just lose it faster when you just cut the cord and say, look, if you're not going to be accountable, I can't coach you because it won't work. We will all fail. You're wasting your money. I'm wasting my time. There's no point. If they're not accountable, they will fail, which means you will fail. You've got to hold them accountable. And if they don't want to be held accountable, you got to say, look, you're either serious about this or not. I'm not going to take your money. I don't want to waste my time. So if you can be accountable, we can work together. If you can't be, you got to go somewhere else because it's not going to work anyway. No one wins. Everyone loses without accountability with coaching. Everyone wins when people are accountable. It's that zero sum of an equation. So make sure they're 100% accountable. Okay, so that's enough for this particular session. But I want you to go over this and think about some of these general things we talked about, because this really, just to wrap this in a bow with this first session, is this sort of gets you started with coaching. Everything we talked about is kind of giving you a really good, solid start. And so we're going to move on from here. But I will tell you, no uncertain terms. The way you structure the beginning of the coaching process is going to determine probably 80% of your success. The setup is key. If it's set up loosely, if you don't do a lot of these things like the NDA and the pre-coaching survey and everything, you still have a chance to succeed with the client, but your odds go way, way down. Stack the deck. Put your odds way up there. Make sure you want the client to succeed and you want to succeed as a coach. Again, you're rowing in the same boat. Make sure they do the homework. If they don't like it, they don't like it. And if they don't want to do it, don't take them on as a client. If they say, I don't want to sign an NDA, I don't want to do all this pre-coaching stuff, I just want you to coach me. Don't take them. Let someone else take them because you'll fail anyway. Okay? So the setup, while tedious, is critical. Okay? So get set up, review this tape, and then this training, and then we'll see you on the next one.